Hello from London. It's just gone 2 minutes past 9 o'clock. We are a little bit early. Well, a little bit late, a little bit early, depends where you're watching from, right? It's Sunday night. It's Sunday, just checking, the 11th of January. Should know that. Birthday week. And it's just past, as I say, just past 9 p.m. here in London, UK. I am Wendy, your host of Wicked Women. How's your week been? How you all doing? What have you been up to? It has been a mixture of cold, ice, rain, and it's been quite a stressful week. Yeah, but it's Sunday, so it's a bit of wicked. It's really nice to see everybody building up in the comments, and I want to welcome everybody on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook or if you're watching from YouTube, and you can also come and join us on StreamYard if you want to. The link is in the comments. I am without my co-host. Bless her, she's still not well. And she might be taking a little sabbatical for a while. And sometimes you need to do that because you're not feeling great. And so I've had to do it. Val has to do it at the moment. So it's me. You've got me. But you also have other people coming in and joining us as well. So it's going to be a lovely show. And we hope you enjoy it for sure. And get well soon, Val. Send in lots of love. And I miss my friend Val. Anyway, she knows how much we love her and miss her. So on to the show. And I have Michael here with me coming in from Virginia. So I still have that beautiful accent coming in. I'm quite glad you can only see me from up here because the dog has put his paws and has slobbered everywhere. But I'm going to be doing this a few ways through the show because long before Wicked Women came to the land of the podcast, I did a couple of other ones. One called Strangely Us with Mark English, which you can find him on YouTube, and it's MARQ, Mark English. So we did a great podcast called Strangely Us. We had great fun doing it, and people always say, when you're coming back? So I saw him yesterday. I'm going to drag him onto Wicked Women in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully Strangely Us won't be too far away. On top of that, then came, I've had to do my, learning. And I had two wonderful teachers. I had Mark and I also had Scotty Roberts, who has taught me so much as well. And you probably saw on Scotty's show a while ago that Robertson is returning. And I am so happy about that because I love working with him. We have known each other for a very, very long time and we work well together. So I'll be showing a little thing later on in the show about Robertson. So that's all things that are to come for Wicked Women and myself. But I know I'm going to bring in my lovely co-host, Michael from Virginia. Hello, sweetheart.
It seems like sickness just keeps hitting the Wicked family.
Yes. We're not doing terribly well, are we?
No, and one of our biggest fans out of Vegas, Dave, got some bad news and stuff. So everybody needs to keep Dave in their thoughts, Yeah, Uncle Dave is very unique. One of the most kind and giving persons I've ever met. And
he really is. And, it's this time of year, I think, it's bad for sickness. But I also think that if you've got conditions, it doesn't make it easy. And they can... Yeah. And mine is up and down, Val's is up and down, and we do what we can. So, I mean, obviously, if I'm not here, the ship kind of goes down. Yeah. But at the moment, I'm
here. They don't want to see me without you, that's for sure.
Oh,
but like I said, we was getting ready for Dave's birthday week, and the doctor calls him, and I'm like, oh, that's a hell of a birthday present, just to drop that on somebody, and it's never good when they say, hey, are you sitting down, by the way?
What a
and they had some other things happen in the family.
But we sent all our love to him. Yes, it is epic that Robertson is returning. And if you haven't watched us, please go and find Scotty Roberts on YouTube.
It's an Intrepid Radio.
All of the Robertson that we did. I learned a lot from that man with the honey as he talks to you, and Mark as well. And I think we all learn from each other as well. So
I was going to say, Mark English. Not only is he good on Strangely Us, but I got a book here a while back from a very lovely lady when I was sick to read. About where they're from. Everybody knows my heart belongs, in the UK, and I was reading it, and I'm like, Surrey. Oh, then I read the book, and I was like, damn, that's a haunted place. It's about like
you
Hansel
know,
and Gretel. It's very dark, and I'm
it's
like,
weird that you bring that up because Mark and I were out last night together and we went to see the Chicago Blues Brothers. And I would actually tell everyone to go and see the Chicago Blues Brothers. They are a UK Blues Brother tribute band. They have been going for many years and they are
yeah,
absolutely awesome. But we were driving down a particular road in Guildford, which had paranormal activity. And as we were driving down it, Mark was like, "Oh, this is the road that I wrote about in my book." And I said, "Do you know what, Mark? It's been so long since I actually read your book. I'm going to have to go back." So he was telling me about that. Apparently, on this particular road in Guildford, in Surrey, someone, I don't know the whole story, but basically someone had taken a car. They came off the road and no one found them, and people kept seeing paranormal versions of this car coming out and showing itself. Maybe it was his way of actually saying, "Look, I'm here, come find me." I mean,
yes,
that's a
it's like damn, quit driving by and help somebody out.
and
Um,
eventually they did find him, and apparently they seem to have ceased since then. But it was an interesting, but if you can find Mark English book, there's some of it still left on Amazon.
yeah.
So Mark with a Q. Give him the show of that book again. What's it
Oh,
called?
it's called Paranormal Theory, forwarded by Dr. I can't say that O'Keefe is the last name, but
Kieran O'Keefe.
yeah, and it's
Forward by Kieran O'Keefe. Yes,
yeah,
it's Mark has done a lot of paranormal investigating in his time, as well as
yeah.
being an actor, as well as being, hosting his whole. He also does another channel, and I'm gonna hate this, something consciousness. Oh my
Um,
god! But if you find Mark English with a Q, you'll find him. So I
he's
would,
all over YouTube. He's traveling all over the UK. Lucky
yes,
bloke. And but no, and like
I
you
need
said,
to.
Scotty has taught both of us so much. I used to come on Scotty's show before he was sick. And he's
That's it.
only
So, yeah,
he's only sent me one book. I would show more if Scotty would send me more books now that
I
he's
have
a
a
little
few.
more settled.
Yes, I do.
What I'm saying? But yeah, if you get a chance, I think it's on Amazon, or you can just message Scotty, and he has another one. It's Tam O'Hare, and
And it's the Nephilim.
yeah,
Um,
Rise and Fall of the Nephilim.
yeah.
It's a good read,
And
and
we are going to cover some paranormal stuff. And what I want to do is get Mark to come on.
Mark's
And
funny.
I did mention that to him last night, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, set it up." So we will do that. But it's me and you tonight. We have a really interesting subject, which I heard this comment last week, and I never heard it before. I've been Hansel and Greteled, or it's a bit of Hansel and Greteling. And I was like, what the hell is that? As the glasses come on. What the hell is that? And basically, it's about breadcrumbing.
Yeah,
And it's good that we're bringing this to people didn't know about it, because we're Wicked. We like to bring you things that you've not known about or not heard
yeah,
about. But Michael, there have been many times in my life where several buggers
yeah.
have, and I'm not just talking boyfriends, I'm talking about friends,
Or
have
acquaintances.
just,
Yeah,
yeah, have just breadcrumbed me. And I think it's so rude. It's one of the things that really upsets me, because it's like, if you can be bothered to message someone, do it. Don't just half-ass do it. Now, we're all
yeah,
guilty, not always getting back on time,
yeah,
maybe not being ready for it or whatever. But the thing is, how to know if you're being breadcrumbing. So you're in a relationship, or you're seeing. Let's look at the relationship scenario first. So you're in a relationship, and you're into this person, and it's been going great, and you've been seeing a lot of each other, blah 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 blah. And the
yeah.
next thing you know, they're slow to respond to texts and phone calls and emails. It's the conversation seems to be more one-sided. they often break plans last minute. That really is not my favorite thing.
No,
Um,
that chaps my ass, as they say.
and are hesitant to commit to relationships or doing anything. Now, I have friends that do this to me. And I
Mhm.
say that now. There are friends doing this to me. And that hurts. Now, I'm not saying that we're not all guilty of it, because we are. I'm not saying that there aren't issues in our life that make it difficult sometimes, because there is.
Yeah,
But life is short. None of us know how long we have on this planet.
no,
And Mark was saying last night, life isn't short. I said, well, let's rephrase that. We don't know how long we have,
no,
so we have to make the
no.
most of every day. And,
That's it.
you know, given that view, Michael, you would not, it's not very nice to do that to somebody.
No,
And I've been in relationships as well. And now I just switch off. As
yeah,
soon as I see someone's text get, oh, what was it? I've had a crazy busy day. I've
no.
only just got in. What, you didn't pick your phone up in the whole time? You didn't look at your phone for the whole time? You couldn't send a message for the whole time? I mean, you must have had that.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, and friendships, relationships, just different things. And it's like, they feed you. It's like, I used to think of it like baby birding. You give them just a few little drops to keep them from starving. And that's kind of, I was thinking, and a lot of men and women do that to the opposite. Almost like putting you in a friend zone type deal too. If you talk about a relationship, oh, I'll show just enough interest so they'll pay for lunch, or they'll I mean, borrow $20 to put gas in the car, or if I really need something, if I keep dragging them along and just baby burden them a little bit, they will be there because they still think there's a shot of me being interested, and it's very cruel. It really is. And me and you had the conversation about some people where you have the car, they get close to you because they want the access that the car gives them to Comic Cons and other people that are famous. So they kind of, you know, breadcrumb you along just enough to think they're, oh, I'm really going to be your friend, because that way they get an invite to go to one of the Comic Cons or something other to meet famous people
Well,
with the
I think
car.
I think the point is, when you have something like the car, of
Yeah,
course people want to see it, and they want to be around you because of it. And there are things in life that make it easy, and there are things in life that make it not. But what put that to one side, when you're friends with someone and you
yeah,
reach out and send a message, if I don't hear from someone within a period of time, I will think, oh my God, are they dead? First of
yeah,
all, are they dead? Are they ill? Do they need
yeah,
something? Are they really,
yeah,
really, please talk to me. Tell me you're okay. What's going
yeah,
on? And or I will think then they don't want to talk to me. And the
yeah,
thing is, I'm big enough and ugly enough now for people to, if you don't want to talk to me, just say you don't want to talk to
yeah,
me. Don't piss around and breadcrumb, because
yeah,
Steve's right. Excuses are avoidance or complacency. I'll
yes.
look. I'll come back to this when it suits me. We'll look at this again when it suits me. And I think with exes as well, another thing that does this is an ex.
Oh
You
yeah,
split up, they might have ended it or whatever, and you'll get this message out of the blue,
yeah.
and it's like, oh, hello, did you see my new picture or something or whatever like that? Do you know what I mean?
Oh
That's true. Not everybody does walk around with the phone wielded to the head, but I can tell you
no,
something, Rapid Dog. One, there is a period of their day that they pick it up and look at it,
yeah,
and that can be first thing, middle of the day, end of the night, whatever. You look at your phone sometime of the day.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, there's two sitting here. Like I said, and it's out of habit. First thing in the morning, I always get up to see who has messaged me when I went to sleep, because I can sleep through phone calls. But then I always try to get right back to them. It's like, that's my morning routine. Is I respond, and if I'm up really early, I I'm up when they're coming in. But I get sometimes when I'm down on the farm, we don't have cell phone service. So quick as I get back in service, the phone is lighting up like a Christmas tree. But and you got to, sometimes you think, well, I'll get back to that in a minute. We got to consciously think, well, maybe there's somebody on the end of that that does think, well, fuck, did he go down there? Did he fall down a cliff? Did a bear eat him? Did he get attacked by a wild cat? Did a cow run him over? And they could be legitimately concerned. And sometimes I think we don't consider the person that maybe sent the message on the other end. You're like, "Yeah, fuck it, I'll get back to it in a minute. I'm tired. I want to come home, take a shower. I just want to lay down." And when you have people in your life, sometimes you have to make a conscious effort. If you just and like, hey, I'm home safely, whatever. I'll talk to you later. And used to in the army, we'd always say, hey, I'll talk to you in the AM. And that means, that's the next morning, we will get back to you. We got shit on our plate. We're dealing with it. But, we're not in jail. We're not dead. We're not, not in the hospital. I'll talk to you in the AM. And I think sometimes we take things for granted, like people understand that we're busy or that we don't have time. And sometimes I tell people my social battery runs empty. I wish I had a little gauge here so people could say, hey, don't touch unfriendly, and it's like, it's done run
You
out.
make a good point though, because you said just now, we don't often think about the person who's left the message,
No.
but that person could be waiting to hear.
Yeah.
Now, I'm talking about family, friends, not always
Yeah.
romantical, but you could be really waiting, especially if you're elderly. If
Yes.
you're elderly and you've left the message, and I think it's just I just think it's manners. But the thing about online dating, it's made it easier to keep multiple romantic options open. So you've got so many to choose from. It's like, oh,
What
hang on
what
a
what
minute.
what is the game? The shell game where you're like rolling things around and it's
Yeah,
just like you're moving around. But
roulette, right? I mean, because at the
yeah,
end of the day, it's like everyone's. So I use this example. I met someone on a dating site, like a house on fire. Chat, 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 chat. Really,
yep,
really well. Constant messages, constant messages, constant messages, chat, 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 chat. All of a sudden, slower, slower, slower. Oh, so did you swipe someone else? Oh, did you change your mind? And then you would get the occasional message. Oh yeah, no, I'm still, blah blah blah. And you just think to yourself, listen,
mm,
it doesn't take a lot to work out that
no,
a lot of people want to keep several people, and I understand that. I understand that some
yeah,
people are not interested in one. But they should be honest about that from the start. They should
yeah,
actually say, listen, i'm not looking for I'm not looking for a serious one-to-one. I'm looking for a few. But what kind of attachment styles do breadcrumbing? Because this is something I wanted to look at, Michael, because what I was looking at with my research was that the people that breadcrumb is they have personality traits such as vulnerable narcissism.
yes,
And I'm going to try and say this: Machiavellism. I think that's it. Along with
close.
psychological correlates. Hi, Carly.
Yeah,
Where individuals seek approval or manipulate others for personal gain. So, insecure attachment styles, either avoidant, keeping distance to avoid
yeah,
intimacy, or anxious, seeking validation, or because they fear being rejected. They
yeah.
also play a role. So, we're talking about, unless you're a serial dater, you're talking about people that actually have a personality trait that makes them do it.
You know, uh, Everybody has a condition anymore that they blame things on for being an asshole, and it's like, oh, and I'm like, you know, you said something a while ago, and you tell Huckleberry, and like I tell Poseidon, manners make it the man and the dog.
Yeah.
And it could be same, for female, but you know what I'm saying. Manners are free. Consideration is free. If you're an asshole, just go and tell people this is what I do. This is how I am. Be honest about it. Don't blame it on some things that says, oh well, I'm this or I'm that. It's my medical condition that I cannot be a decent person, and that stuff just really irritates me. It's like no, 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 no. I'm like no, and it's made it so easy now with technology for us to be detached, for us to juggle people.
Yeah.
And it's like you got Facebook dating, you got Plenty of Fish, you got Tinder, you got. I see things pop up all the time, Hilty or whatever. They say the women message first, and I'm like,
But what I discovered the other week is that there
Oh,
is all the dating sites all come under Match, like
yeah,
Plenty of Fish, Tinder, Hinge, Bumble. All of these
yeah,
people are under Match, so they're like the god of dating.
yeah,
Um, and the thing is, when you're going like this to someone, and people might think that about my profile, whatever, you
yeah.
don't know who the person is on the other side of the person
No,
you're swiping.
yeah.
You really, really don't know. And you meet them and you chat away. But you know, what's worse is when you're dating someone for a while, or you're living with them, or you're married to them, and all of a sudden attention becomes less. The conversations become more, whatever, you know,
It's almost like a job to have a positive
100%.
interaction, and
And
it's
I
like
and it gets
become
to the point where you
yeah,
think to yourself, am I not interested in you anymore? Are you bored? But it's like insecure attachment styles, avoidant or anxious
yeah,
will be a breadcrumber because they don't want to
yeah.
lose you, but they're not 100% in and they're not 100% sure.
I had an ex-wife almost like that. It was like, I don't want you, but I don't want nobody else to have you either.
100%.
And and I look at that, and so like I said, a lot of stuff I'm really jaded with. Like it's like it's like I don't think there's a mental illness that makes somebody an asshole. You know what I'm saying? It's just, but growing up, like I said, we're both Gen X. You had to make an effort to get the phone away from everybody else in the house. Then, if you wanted any privacy, you had to go at the end of a 30-foot cord and hide and talk on the phone. But now, like I said, there's two of them sitting here, laptop, email, and everything else. There is a way to stay in contact. I've got, international phone calling when it works. It's not me, it's Verizon, because I can call London.
It's called a
And
mobile phone for a
it's,
reason.
yeah, it's very, very, very mobile. And,
But having said that, as also a point that we are also very busy, but it seems that breadcrumbing, it means someone has their own self-interest to keep
oh,
you around for support or backup. So, for instance, if you
yeah,
split up with someone, if you break up with someone, and you don't want to be with that person anymore, and we all know that we've all been through it. Someone doesn't want to be for, but they send you a message, or they'll ask you to do something, or would you help me with this? Or what do you think of that? Oh, but I did love you. All that shit that they come out
oh,
with.
yeah,
That is breadcrumbing. That is still keeping one toe, one foot in to say,
y-
just in case I need you for something, just in case
yeah.
I need a backup or whatever. That is wrong.
I have seen that. And a lot of times, the reason that I'm on Wicked Women is from a male point of view. Because, like I said, males and females think differently. What is it? We did a show. Women are from what is it? Venus and men are from Mars. And and there's a lot of women now that are married that tries to keep somebody on the side for backup just in case this marriage here don't work out. And I have seen a lot of shows on that, and it's like, and then a lot of them they have buyer's remorse when they leave the husband that makes 6 figures a year that pays the rent. They're like, but I thought my backup plan was going to work. So sometimes having a backup plan or the agenda, I've always said everybody has an agenda, good or bad. Some people's agenda is to get all they can from anybody they can, and other people, has got a big heart. They give to it hurts. And I'm like, and that's kind of, and when you get older, and like I said, me and Wendy has talked about the changes she has saw in me from the army to now. I'm a pet parent. My kids are grown. Now it's Chandler, Calmer, Michael, whatever. But no, it's really, really cruel to breadcrumb somebody for your own agenda. It's selfish, and it's almost unforgivable. And I have seen people, like I said, male and female, put the opposite sex or whatever, in the friend zone, and they give them just enough hope. Well, one day, maybe they
That's
will
wrong.
be into me romantically, or maybe that they'll see me in a different light. And there's and a
Or
lot
they
of people.
leave you, or they leave you for someone else.
It's it, and it's like
And then
then they pop back up.
that goes, pear shaped. And the next thing you
Yeah,
know, they're like, hi, good
yeah,
morning, out of the blue. And all of a sudden it's like they want to have a conversation with you, or they're sending emojis, or they're like, what do you, or they, and it's the end of the day, it's like, look, you didn't, when you had me, you didn't appreciate
it's
me.
it. When they do that to me, I was like, "Who this new number?"
Yeah. But I think a lot of exes do. I get it a lot because I'm not a blocker. I'm really not a blocker of people
No.
because I only
Oh,
block people if they're psychotic or just completely nuts.
yeah.
I just don't block
Eh,
people because I think it's pretty. I just think it's childish. Unless you
yeah.
have to, I'm not a big blocker. If you have
No.
to because the person is dodgy, fair enough. But I'm not a blocker. I know some people are. So I often get these hi. Great picture. Good morning. How are you? It's so lovely to see you. And it's like, I haven't heard from you for months or for days. And all
Or
of a sudden,
years. Yeah.
100%. And the next minute, I'm talking about men here. I'm not just talking
Yeah.
about, with women and stuff like that. And also,
But
you know,
both sexes are guilty of doing
yeah,
it. And
yeah,
like you said, the mobile phone makes it really easy. They
yeah,
said you're not welded to your phone or glued to your phone. There's a lot of people who are connected at the hip. That they carry it with them 24/7. They go to bed with it laying beside their head, and it's like, you know. So I get it. Them are the people who are probably serial daters or people who breadcrumb a lot of people along. And I'm like, holy hell, But like I
well,
said, I have seen it from both sides, and I have
have you
seen both sides
have
do.
you seen it on social media where they'll like your post, but
Yeah,
you'll send them a message and they read it and they don't respond.
yeah, and it stays on unread, or it stays on red.
That's the worst one, when it stays on red and you think, what, and the thing is, I actually believe now there's a very true saying, treat others as you want to be treated.
That's
Now,
it.
um,
Absolutely.
I'm guilty like everybody else of shutting myself off and shutting myself away from the world. But when my friends or loved ones go, Wendy, are you all right? Because I'm really worried now. You need to let
Yeah,
me know. I will come back out and I will say, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. I
yeah,
just needed this time. But it's when it leaves it on red, or they just don't answer it,
yeah.
or I and also the other three thing I find,
Well,
I people use you for what they want out of you, right?
absolutely. You know.
I know that because I have an ex,
Mhm.
without any names. I have an ex who broke my heart in quite a few ways, but has got themselves to a place where I should be.
Yeah,
But they are there, and I should be there. And they wouldn't have been there if I hadn't took them out there, and they hadn't, it's like you look back and you go, oh, actually you wouldn't have had that if you hadn't met me, and you wouldn't have
yeah,
had that if you hadn't met me. And people use you, and they keep you along with the breadcrumbing for what they
yeah.
can get out of you. So I'm using this as an example. um you
That
know
goes back to that agenda I talked about.
can you make this for me, or can you send me this, or can you show me this, or can you help me with this, blah 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 blah. They People use you, and in some ways we're all guilty of that in our own ways, but
Yeah.
that I find a lot.
You, you know, um, that reminded me of something. We was having a conversation one day and was talking about unread messages or something that are, and you said, "Oh, I'm the world's worst." I said, "I can contest to that. I send you messages, and I'm like, and everybody, but I know what it is. But like I said, when you know somebody, and I
Yeah,
know
you know
Wendy
me
has,
quite well.
yeah, she has good days and bad days like me. Some days I don't sleep for days. Other days I might sleep for 14 hours a day, and everybody's like, "Did you die in your sleep?" I'm like, "No, man, the dogs are fine." We're all curled up in a puppy pile.
My personality to
Yeah.
I'm not. And the other thing, breadcrumbing reminds me a bit of ghosting. Scotty and I did a Robertson on ghosting, and
Sometimes
also,
I think
um,
breadcrumbing is worse than ghosting because
yeah,
if you just fuck off, you know, you know that, well, this person ain't gonna ask for nothing or whatever. And the breadcrumbing is, like you said, it's that narcissist. If I feed them a little bit of attention, maybe I can get something else later.
yeah.
And it's almost like they're putting minimum deposits in a bank and wanting a maximum withdrawal.
That's an interesting point about a bank, because I did see years ago someone saying a relationship is like a bank.
Yeah,
You invest in it, and you
yeah,
put, if any one of you's investing or someone's taking more, then there's only one of you investing. That bank is going to become it's going to be poor pretty quick.
yeah,
And I think a lot of us invest. I'm a very giving person,
Yeah.
I have given myself, might have given my car, not the big one, but I've given my car to people. I've lent money to people. I've offered the clothes off my back off people. I'm like, come and stay here or do whatever you want. I give, give, give. And I'm too much of a giver. And I've decided since beginning of this year and towards the end of last year, it's time I stop being so much a giver. I will give to those that give to me because, and also there are some people that are well worth giving to, but there are also some people that are not. But also when you see people saying, do you know what I really hate when people go, maybe, let's see, or let's just go with the flow. I'm not a fucking sat nav, right?
No,
Let's just go with the flow.
we'll
See
get
where
back to that later. Yeah,
us.
yeah.
That drives me mad because what is that actually saying to someone? You're holding on to them potentially. There might be a chance, maybe a chance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, there's Dave. Dave's still kicking. He said, "I'm here for a few." That makes me feel good because I haven't got to talk to Dave.
Also, you also find that they'll avoid discussing your relationship status. So, I mean, this is the one. You're dating someone, you're seeing them, and you'll go, so would you say we're dating? And they go, do we have to put a name on it?
Yeah.
Do we have to put a name on it? Or what's the other one?
Labels.
Let's just see where it goes. Let's just go with the flow because, you know, and I understand a lot of people do that. They put statuses on and the next thing you know, they're divorced, separated, shagging someone else, back together. It gets embarrassing. But the thing is, at the end of the day, a lot of people choose. You should that if you're in a relationship, you should on your social media, you don't have to show everything, but you should at least show that you have a partner if you're with a partner and committed to them. And that doesn't mean you have to share every single thing that goes on in your life, but people should at least know you have a partner. You don't have to put up in a relationship. You don't have to put up that if you don't want to, but you should make it clear that you are with someone and there is
market
to them, right?
Oh. I said so you need to let people know that you're off the market and not shopping no more.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't even have a status on mine, and I'm so unlucky that every time I put up I'm in a relationship or something like that, it goes down the pan. But also the other thing that you'll probably know in a relationship is hot and cold behavior.
That seems like I see a lot more of that anymore. It's like people are manic. And it's just weird. And like I said, I've seen the people who have found love for like 15 times in 1 year on Facebook. And I'm like, holy shit, I can't even find it once. Damn, how lucky are these people? But the same way they swap relationships, that's the reason they're swapping them because that's the same energy they put in a relationship. They're all in one day, all out the next day.
I hate it. I hate it.
There's a thing in here. It's like a worm on hot glass.
Yeah.
They're squirmy.
Today I want to talk to you. Today I want to be with you. But tomorrow I'm going to ignore you, or I'm just going to like breadcrumb you. So I do think absolutely one day they show you with attention. The next they're distant. They're very, very distant to you. They show more interest when you start to pull away. Why? Because the avoidant and the anxious behavior and personality type goes, oh, hang on a minute. I'm losing.
Yeah.
And so when you pull away from someone and you become distant and cold, what happens is the avoidant will go, well, fuck you, right? Fuck you. You don't want to be with me anyway. That's fine. And the anxious will go, well, no, I really don't want this. And they'll do everything to try and talk to you and bring you out. And the person that's right in the middle of not avoidant and not anxious will actually just go, are you okay? What's going on? But I actually think that actions don't always meet words. I think a lot of people say the right things, but they don't follow through. And that doesn't mean they didn't have good intentions. It just means that they're not capable of. There are a lot of people that want things and say they want things, but they're incapable of coming through. And I always say that's my biggest bugbear, and I've said it on Robertson, and I've said this on Wicked Women, is don't talk the talk if you're not going to walk the walk, because I'm not interested. You're either going to back it up or you don't, and that's just who I am. But those that promise that I'm going to be there for you, you're not going to be on your own, I'm here for you, or don't worry, I'll do this, and then tumbleweed, tumbleweed, tumbleweed.
This ship goes sailing away. Um, but that goes back into that emotional bank account we was talking about.
Sure.
When somebody starts pulling away, or well, like if they get cold and you're like, oh, screw this. So then they figure, oh, if I want anything else out of this emotional bank account, I need to deposit a little more. So they up their ante just a little more. But they only give the minimum of what they are. If
Mm,
you're like all in, they say, well, shit, they're not going nowhere. I don't have to do all this work. So they kind of coast. So then when we start pulling away, they're like, oh shit, this person could end up with somebody that actually gives a shit that puts the same amount in as they do.
100%.
So then they rev it up a little bit and they're like, okay. Then when you start responding back to them, they're like, okay, this is a level I got to keep for a while. But then when everything kind of evens back out, they start
Sure.
drifting back again. And it's kind of like a cycle, and you can kind of see it. It's like roller coastering, and it's like when you pull away from them, they ramp up the affection. They respond quicker.
Yeah.
Like I said, but it goes back to like I said, the agenda,
Well,
and
because the
it's a
avoidant
game.
will not want you to chase them. The avoidant will want you to leave. They'll be like,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Hmm.
The anxious will be like, oh, hang on a minute. But the thing about the roller coaster of breadcrumbing, etc., is that it can actually cause a lot of mental and emotional damage. It will
Yeah.
give you anxiety. It can cause you stress. You can get depression. And also, it damages you for every other fucking relationship that's coming up afterwards. You'll be
Did
like, "Wait a minute," because
Yeah.
if that person shows any traits from what that other person did, like breadcrumbing,
Yeah.
etc., etc., how do I know you really want me? How do I know you really mean it?
Yeah.
They said that, but then they did that. They really play with your head.
I have talked several people down here lately. They're like, but I've seen this before. I said, but yeah, you cannot make the person you with now pay for all the sins of the past of whoever else she was with. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, treat this person as an individual, because I hate being judged by people from somebody's past. Oh, that will put mm, I'm not cool and collective. You know what I'm saying? I would lose my shit. I'd be like, look,
Yeah,
I'm not him. I'm Michael. Trust me, I fuck up enough on my own. I do not need to pay for his sins also. And and like I said, I have talked to several people here recently, and they're like, but you don't understand. This person did this to me. I'm like, yeah, but this person is not the one you're with
them,
now.
not me. And the thing is, you have to, when we come out of one relationship and we go into another, you have to have a gap.
Yeah,
A lot of people don't, they kangaroo, and
yeah,
you have to have a gap to get yourself together, because if you've been
yeah,
emotionally damaged by ghosting, breadcrumbing, being unfaithful,
yeah.
narcissism, violence, whatever, you have to have a break, because otherwise you are not in a mindset to actually get into another relationship without all this stuff that's going on. And the
It's
thing,
all twirling in the background. That's all emotional trauma that you need to process.
yeah,
And a lot of people's like, in the one friend I'm talking about, I said, well, how long has this person been divorced? 2 years. I said, that's less than 700 days. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? I'm like, break it down to the core part. Have they processed what the ex has done to them? Oh, well, I think so. No, it takes more than a day or two to get over betrayal or,
everyone
or, or emotional abuse.
everyone's doing it's different. Where some people will get over it in shorter time, other people will take longer.
Yeah,
But I think what happens is with some people, I mean, some people you're breadcrumbed with, and you just don't give a shit, and you just go
yeah,
delete.
yeah. That's it.
But it makes you question your self worth and being attractive and your
Yeah,
self esteem, as in, if you find the rewarding side of it, do you know what I mean? When you do something for them, they go, "Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for what you've
yeah,
done, and this is amazing." And then,
yeah.
right,
That's it.
just whatever, they've just disappeared, because you should never put your self worth and your attractiveness based on someone else. You should always have enough in your pot, and we all go up and down, don't get me
Oh
wrong,
yeah,
up and down, but you should have
yeah,
enough in your pot to actually go, I'm with this person, I love them, but they're not my world. They fulfill me in
absolutely.
lots of ways, but I also fulfill myself. And you have to be coming from a very ground and centered way, which I know a lot of people find very difficult, but they do reward. Breadcrumbing is it's almost like
It's cruel.
you go to WhatsApp, you put a new picture up, and as you say, people will go, "Oh my God, how are you?" And I'm like, "Who are you? I've deleted their number ages ago. I don't know who you are."
No,
So I can get it. And also, how do you get to trust people if someone you love and care about, or you care very deeply, breadcrumbs you?
it like you said before. Different people
Trust is
process it. Different people. They process that different ways, and some people, like Carlene said, some people never get over of it, and and they carry that damage with them for a long time, and you can see it on their face. And when that person is emotionally and physically not available to them, it destroys them emotionally and physically. And you can see the way they wear it on their face. And I was looking at the comments over here. I'm trying to stay focused, but a lot of times I try to keep up because, we love the people who's in our comments.
We can see the comments, but I don't always put them up
And
because it can
uh,
distract you.
and
Distract me.
but I seen Charlie said that they leave a gap in relationships, and I think that, and I would recommend that to anybody. Don't relationship hop if somebody has breadcrumbed you, or if somebody has caused you some kind of emotional or physical damage. Sometimes you do have to take that time
You
to
do,
recenter yourself.
yeah.
You got to relearn to love yourself and know your self worth before you can give yourself and your worth to somebody else. And like I said, I try to keep that over here in the side of my thing, so I don't get distracted. But
No, I agree because I've got it on the side. I think the
um,
thing is, everybody is different. What will take
yeah,
somebody years could take somebody months. No, you
yeah,
cannot put a time limit. Everybody's different. But I
everybody's
think,
wired differently here.
how do you know that, Michael, if you're being, I want to look at a couple of things when it comes to the whole breadcrumbing type of thing, is basically a term for stringing someone along with small nuggets of communication or actions, but never fully committing. A lot of people will, as I say, respond to a social media or a photo,
Yeah,
and they may text back and forth, but never agree to plans, or they use or they come for what they want, and then they back right away again. And it's very hurtful and very, very confusing to
it
somebody.
is.
Hansel and Gretel left a trail of breadcrumbs in order to find their way home. And that's why people are starting to say, I've been Hansel and Greteled,
Yeah,
rather than using the breadcrumbing. But I think one thing's good to say is it normally happens when you first meet someone. And I'm using as a dating one first. It normally, you've had a couple of dates with them, and that's when the breadcrumbing can start, or you've had a couple of conversations with them. That's when it could come. Um, and in your family, in familiar relationships, you
yeah,
will have the relationship will definitely be, one minute they're very friendly, very chatty, very much into you. The next minute they pull back. And the difference between ghosting and breadcrumbing, they're both forms of non-committal behavior. Well,
yeah,
ghosting is where someone, as you said, Michael, quite rightly, disappears completely. And
yeah,
breadcrumbing involves inconsistent communication that functions to string the person along. Other terms that involve non-committal behaviors include orbiting, staying in someone's orbit but not spending time together, and
yeah.
submarining. I've never heard of this one before. Disappearing and then resurfacing after a long period of time. Never heard that one before.
No, but I've seen that a lot. It's like, damn, where did they go? Next thing you know, they pop up. They're like bad money. They just pop right back up, and it's like, okay. But I've never heard submarine. All of these new terms, and I think it goes back to technology because it makes it so easy for people to slide in and out of your life
Yes.
through your social media or through whatever. And ain't none of it nice. It's like I said, manners are free and cheap, and once again, technology has made it very easy for us to kind of forget our home training, and I don't like it.
I'm looking into the Hansel and Gretelin because in the classic fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel, the siblings leave a trail of breadcrumbs to help them find their way back home. However, they are strategically placed pieces of bread that are eaten by eager birds who follow the children,
Yeah,
resulting in the pair being left stranded, nervous, and confused.
yeah,
And so just like the birds who travelled behind Hansel and Gretel, eating little crumbs as they dropped them, when a potential partner breadcrumbs you, or a partner or a friend
yeah,
breadcrumbs you, they keep you on that path but refuse to give you an end goal. So, in some ways,
yeah,
be grateful for someone who does give you an end goal because they
yeah.
actually care about you more than stringing you along.
This because when I read, there's not a fairy tale ending like Disney does. The original Hansel and Gretel was pretty dark, and it was a very cautionary tale that everybody, no matter how much money you had or whatever, if there's no bread to buy, it don't matter how much money you have in your pocket, you're still going to starve to death. And
Yeah,
and the breadcrumbs. And the first time they took him into the woods to leave him, the little boy put white pebbles in his pocket, and he found his way back. So the mother sent the father out into the woods again, and that's where the breadcrumbs came. And they wandered around until they found they call it a witch, but it was an old woman. She was starving also. So after they had got the gold and silver, they found their way back to the river because there was no breadcrumbs left. And like I said, I thought, boy, that is not the Disney fairy tale that I read growing up.
I remember the supernatural version of
Yeah,
Hansel and Gretel, where there was an old woman in the forest, and this couple
yeah,
stumbled in, like, my car's broken down, we don't know where we are. Come in, and she makes them
yeah,
pie, and oh, this pie is the best, and the girlfriend doesn't eat much of it, but the guy does, and then he
yeah.
ends up getting killed and cooked,
Because
and
he's the one that plumped up.
yeah, exactly. And the girl escaping. I never forget that. But we hope, like, we wanted to look at some of Grimm's fairy tales too, because
Yeah,
what I didn't realize about when we were talking about Hansel and Gretel was just how dark it is in breadcrumbing in someone's life in using that term.
yeah. It's very appropriate.
But
If you read the old fairy tales, it's very dark. It's very,
yeah,
I ain't going to say satanic, but it's very like demonish and whatever. It's very ghoulish. It's because they're almost a cautionary tale of what not to do and where not to go and how not to act. And I'm like, and the other one, it was Hansel and Gretel. They wasn't brother and sister. They lived across the river, across each other. She wore her dad's like wood coat, and he jotted in a journal, and they was imps coming out of a well, and she ended up having to save Hansel by stabbing this dark demon and sealing off the well so he'd quit taking souls from the village.
yeah,
I'm thinking, boy, Disney didn't hit that one either. That
yeah.
was,
But
I'm like,
I didn't realize. I didn't realize when we were looking at Grimm's fairy tales using before we go in looking at that. I want to finish the
yeah,
breadcrumb one, but
yeah,
they were based from folklore and tales, and they went
yeah,
round and collected them. So these are stories that people either happened or people told a version of it, and what they did is they turned it into a story with a meaning, so that
yeah,
people could learn from it. And I think one thing I would say about breadcrumbing using Hansel and Gretel as well is, and I just wanted to bring that in because it's like, what do you do when you are being breadcrumbed by someone? What do you do? What do you say to them? Well, first of all, you recognize the pattern. You know your gut feeling. Even if I always say to people, ignore your head and ignore your heart because they argue. Listen to your gut instinct that one says, oh, but you know the truth. But you know the truth, but you just don't want to hear it and your heart
yeah,
doesn't want to feel it. You must listen to your gut instinct. It's never wrong. Don't ignore it. If you're getting a gut feeling about something, you've got to listen to it and you've got to act on it. If you notice the signs, acknowledge them and even bring it up to them and say, look, I'm noticing blah, 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 blah. And you're not alone because there's a lot of people getting breadcrumb. Secondly, set boundaries, Michael. Be clear about what you want
Yep.
from this relationship. I'm not happy with this behavior, or I'm setting a boundary here. This is
Yeah.
my boundary, and you will, if you respect me,
That's
we
it.
have boundaries. Don't be afraid to say to someone, this is what I need, this is my expectation. And it is
Yeah.
okay sometimes to walk away, and be direct with your communication. Call them out. I
Oh
actually,
yeah.
you don't have to be nasty. You can
Yeah.
actually be quite nice to them and say, look, this is the
Yeah.
issue. And sometimes people don't even realize they're breadcrumbing. They usually do, but
Yeah.
some of them don't.
But they end up playing stupid. The good ones play stupid. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Was I doing that to you? My
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
But
And
it's
one word I hate is self-care. I hate that
yeah.
word, self-care, because a lot of people use it now. I'm self-caring.
You know, I tell them, hey, if you're gonna go play with yourself, it takes about 30 minutes. Get it over with and come back. To the land of the adult.
I mean this. We all need time to ourselves, right?
Yeah,
We all
that's
need
it.
time to ourselves. We all need to look after ourselves. And what I would say is, I'm taking a day for myself, or I'm needing some time
Vacation.
to get better and chill out or whatever. I come from the 70s where
Yeah.
we weren't taught to say I love you. We weren't taught to say I love myself. We weren't taught to
No.
say self-care. We were taught to say things like I need a day. I need a bit of time to sort myself out. I need a couple of weeks to do this, blah 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 blah. Right. So I think it's very important. It's not what you say to someone, it's how you say it. And if you write
Yeah.
it on a text, other people can read it in different ways, and it can come
Yeah.
across quite cold. But if you are being breadcrumb, maybe you do need to move away from that person.
Yeah.
You do need to pursue other things in your life, other people that do want to be with you, that will answer
Yeah.
a message, that will show you they're into you. Because all the while you're putting your energy on someone who's only giving you 50%, or even not even that, or breadcrumbing you, you are wasting time on someone who would actually give it to you. And
Preach,
that's the thing
sister.
I've had to learn in my lifetime, the hardest lesson.
Is it? But that goes back. Sometimes you cannot see that it's happening to you because the old saying, you can't see the forest, for looking at the trees, because you're in the trees. The whole forest is around you, and you're only seeing it from your perspective. And a lot of times, and I've got mad at friends, and I've had friends get mad at me and be like, you're getting the shit into this deal, bud. And they're like,
Mm.
oh, you don't understand. Say, no, you're not seeing it from where I'm seeing it from. And sometimes you got to make people kind of, what is it? They say that gets slap of reality has to hit them.
Yeah.
Then when the relationship comes to an end, they come back and say, "Oh man, I'm yeah." They submarine you, like you said, they go away because they're with their partner. The next thing they'll pop up, and it's like, God damn, you was right. I'm like, well, fuck, I know I'm right.
I mean, I
I'm
don't
me.
want to be submarined.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't want to be submarined or
No, and it's like, but like I said, but after the relationship goes to shit, that you're telling them this was shot, from the beginning, and they go away because, you're letting them know. Well, the person they're with knows that you know the truth. So therefore, there
yeah,
has to be a conflict between you and the partner. So you don't get to hang out with your boyfriend, girl, whatever, your buddy, whatever, because the partner is saying, "Oh no, you can't hang out with them. If you're with me, you can't be friends with them." Then when all of it goes to shit, like you told them it's going to go to shit, then they pop back up and it's like, "Hey, bud, I'm sorry, you was 100% right," and to come back very meek or whatever. So I guess that
many
and I'm like,
You
and I'm
never dump. You never dump your friends. I'm sorry, but you
no,
don't dump your friends for your partner, because you know
no,
what? If you're with a healthy partner, they will never ask you to dump a friend. They will
no,
never ever say that. They will encourage you. If you have a toxic friendship with someone and it infects your relationship, that is a different matter
yeah,
altogether. Now, the
that's
thing is,
it.
we all need to know when to move on, Michael. And I don't know about you, but I've wasted I mean,
You and
I'm
me
coming
both,
up
honey.
to
You and me
coming up
both.
to my 5 decades now, and I look at it and I'm like, all the fucking time I've wasted on the wrong people in my life that have
Yeah,
breadcrumbed me, that have used me for what they wanted or
Yeah,
whatever. It's like I needed to know when to move the fuck on, right? And if someone continues to breadcrumb you or what's the word I want to use?
play with your emotions.
For their own advantage or play you, it is time
Mhm.
to let go. Because all the time, as I said, and I'm going to say this again, all the time you are wasting on the wrong person, and you know they're the wrong person because your gut instinct says, I should be treated better than this. I
Yeah,
deserve better than this. I don't deserve to be spoken to like this. I don't deserve to be treated on off. Do you know what? Treating someone hot and cold treatment is cruel,
it is
especially
cruel.
if you're in a relationship with someone, because one minute they're like lovely and they make you feel that there's hope. They make you feel there's hope at the end of the rainbow. They love me. They're
Yeah,
confused. They don't know what they want. They fucking know what they're doing. 100% they know what they're doing.
yeah.
Because if you love someone, you don't treat them like that. I'm sorry, but you don't.
It's about
You
like
treat them with respect. And so if you're in a relationship where you feel you deserve to be valued and respected and spoken to decently and not breadcrumbed, and you're not getting it, it's time to move on.
that's it.
And that's the hardest thing sometimes.
It's about like if your spouse has a headache for like 8 years, it's time to move on. They're very ill.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, also, I think as well, if we allow someone to treat us with that kind of behavior, what does that say about us to them? We're okay to be talked to like that. We're
yeah,
okay to be walked over like that. And you know what? They'll carry on doing it. And the thing is, no one's a fucking doormat. But I think
no,
if you're direct communication and you have your boundaries
yeah.
and you say, when you give someone enough attention to, when someone gives you just enough attention to keep you there
But that could be that
without
could be same in a job too. Because I was just thinking about this. Because I was talking to Michael Allen the other day, and I told him, don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want. And I have
absolutely.
and I have seen people like an employee give you just enough praise to keep you from looking for another job, and talk shit to you the other time,
Absolutely.
but quick as you start actively job hunting, you're the next thing to slice
Yeah.
bread. So it's just not in a relationship, but it could be a friendship. It could be a boss employee workship. It could be, and
And
people breadcrumb in people all different ways in their life, which
in a
none of it don't
relationship, you've
ain't
got a good point there, Michael, because whether it's work or friendship,
or a relationship.
exactly, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
if someone starts from the past or an ex
Yeah.
starts to come back
Yeah.
and go, and they're texting you more, and he starts to play with
Yeah.
your head. Why are they
Yeah.
texting me? Why are they talking to me? Do they want to get back with me? Oh my God, do they still love me? It plays with your head. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, the bread coming happens. Oh yeah, but I didn't mean it like that. I was only just, I was just
I,
passing the time of day. I
I was
didn't really
just
want
checking
to.
on you.
You
No.
don't be stupid. Don't be stupid.
No.
Say to someone, you're breadcrumbing me. I know
Yep.
you're breadcrumbing me. Why are you doing that? I don't deserve that. And I feel confused when our conversations are inconsistent. How can you build up consistency with someone and a true relationship, whether it's friendship, work, or um,
I've been married and divorced too many times to ask that question.
if you've got no consistency, you've got to have consistency and clarity about where you
Yeah.
stand. You need someone to be very clear with you and say, this is where you stand. Not someone who just, well,
Yeah.
maybe, I'm
We'll
not
see
sure.
we'll see where it goes. We'll see how things work out.
Or I've been busy. I could.
Hmm.
I've been so busy. What's the other one? I've heard it in the last couple of years. Well, I meant to get back to you, and I saw the
Yeah.
message was there, but I was,
I forgot.
that
Oh,
that,
oh,
that one only lasts so many times before you actually
oh,
go, no, you're
and,
breadcrumbing me.
and they say, "Oh, but life is so chaotic," and I'm like,
It's true sometimes. It is, and it
it
is.
is,
But
but
at the end of the
6 months
day,
later,
it takes 2 minutes to send a
yeah,
text,
yeah,
even 10 seconds. Going, I'm
yeah,
so sorry, I'm not there right now, but I'll get
yeah,
back to you as soon as I am. And also,
and
Michael,
a
people
lot
need
of
to be specific, don't they?
that's it, and a lot of times, if I don't send a message or whatever, you know, the dog here. I'll send her. I call it proof of life. For me and him, and it's just a quick picture. She sees it. We're both alive and breathing. Nobody's bleeding out, and it's like, well, Michael's not feeling good. I know that the reason he's not getting back to me is because this is where he is, but him and or whatever
Yep.
is okay. And I always take it with the dog because he ups my attractive whatever by a lot. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, it takes, like you said, 10 seconds to be a decent person, and a lot of people don't understand how how much it means to somebody. And it's like the little things in life. Sometimes it's like at Christmas, I sent somebody a bigger card just because I knew she was having a bad time, and when she got out of the post, it lit her up. It made her day. Then when I asked her, and she's like, "Oh, you and the babies." I'm like, "Yeah." And sometimes, like I said, kindness is free, and you got to be careful of the people who take your kindness for weakness.
Because there are people that will take
Kindness for weakness, and, and,
piss.
and they are, and they'll aggravate. What is it? What is it you say there? They'll take the piss out of you just to see how far they can go. But quick as you call them out, most of them are cowards. They'll be like, "Oh, no, 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 it wasn't me. I'm so sorry."
They also, I mean, as I said, I'm not saying there are not people out there with genuine reasons. And I see Scotty, my podcaster hubby, waiting, so
Yeah,
I haven't forgotten him. But literally, there are people with genuine reasons that sometimes can't always be there and do have
yeah,
to take time out. But sometimes they explain their behavior with reasons.
yeah,
I'm stressed. There was work. I've
yeah,
got a past trauma. It brought up
yeah.
a trauma in me. I wasn't sure, etc., etc. But explanations shouldn't excuse patterns that leave you feeling undervalued. And I'm
No,
sorry, but if someone makes you feel undervalued, and that could be they disappear, they don't treat you right,
yeah,
whatever, you need to just say, listen. You don't have to ever go at them. Listen,
no.
this is how I'm feeling. Remember that healthy relationships, guys, flow
Communicate.
naturally
Yeah,
without
communication.
uncertainty. So genuine interest doesn't require, oh God, what was that signal that person sent to me? Are they into me?
Yeah,
Are they not into me? Are they coming back to me? Do they want me? They don't want to talk to me anymore. They don't want to see me. You don't, and also don't. We analyze response times. Oh God, they haven't got back to me. It's been.
yeah.
That's why I turned that thing off my WhatsApp. So I actually don't know. I actually don't know when that last person was on WhatsApp, so I don't actually have to have that
Um,
conversation with them.
but that reminds me, and I see the memes a lot of times that you see the woman laying in bed, and the guy's rolled over, and she said, "Oh, he's probably thinking of other women." And there's 900 things going through his other head, like how can I make my car faster? How can I get the dog to do a trick or something?
That's true.
And I'm like,
We
but
women always tend to think you men are thinking different things, etc.
but like I said, most of the time we're like a 12-year-old boy that would draw penis on the wall with a marker if you didn't teach us how to act indoors. So but it's the same way. If you send somebody a message and they don't respond back, oh, he's talking to somebody else or she's talking to somebody else, or they found somebody else that they're giving their attention to. Or if I'm not getting their attention, who is? And I've seen the thing said entrapment, and it is almost like entrapment. They entrapped you with just enough of emotional
Enough,
deposit to
just
keep
enough
you.
to bring you in.
It's
Oh, oh,
it's
yeah,
almost like fishing. You know what I'm saying? You let them go out, then you crank them back in, and finally, they wear you down just like you would if you was deep sea fishing. You just don't set the hook and drag them all in, and they yo-yo you back and forth
sure.
until they just emotionally wear you down, and I can get it, and that could be almost entrapment. And
But I mean, there are people who have genuine reasons too, and you think is your gut instinct knows if you know the
yeah,
person well enough. But if someone consistently makes you question their intentions, despite giving them clear
yeah,
communication, then it actually says their true priorities. What is someone's true priority when they either get what they want and then disappear or breadcrumb you,
yeah,
whatever? What is their true intention? What is it they want from you? What is it you want from me? What kind of relationship do you actually want from me? So I'm going to ask you, leave this here before we go on to the final one. How do I know if I'm being breadcrumb? Look for inconsistent communication, vague
yes,
plans, and a lack of commitment. which makes you feel insecure, anxious, or unsure about where you stand. If you're being breadcrumbed, set clear boundaries, communicate your needs, and prioritize your well-being, and otherwise move on. I really hope this subject, we could go on about this all night. I really hope people have enjoyed this subject, because I want to go on to, we thought it'd be fun to look at some of Grimm, a couple of things with Grimm's fairy tales, looking at Hansel and Gretel, because they actually are. We're talking about Hansel and Gretel now, and people are in the comments saying, "Oh, I can take that. I've been Hansel and Gretel." So we're going to look at that. Before I do that, I'm going to take this out a second. Remove this banner, which is there. And I'm going to I'm going to bring this in, because I took, before I bring in Scotty, my podcaster hubby, my other podcaster hubby, because I have Michael too. So I'm very lucky.
What do you call that? A truffle?
Well, I don't know, but I'm just very lucky.
Sandwich between man and meat.
I'm going to bring in, I brought it in, it's only a little thing, and I'm just going to take us out, and I'm going to play this. 1 second. Where's it gone? I did have it. There it is. Let's take us out. Hang on a second. Well, it's been a while since I played that music, I can tell you. And I'm going to bring in Scotty, who's come to join us for the second half of the show. But folks, if you used to enjoy Robertson, the good news is that we are returning, and I'm so happy to say that. Hello, darling. How are you?
Wakey, Scotty. Your mic's muted.
Your mic's mute. Put your mic on. He's like, I can't hear it now.
I had it on mute just in case.
You look like Professor X over there. You know, you cannot tell. Absolutely, let us know what you're doing.
Yeah. How y'all doing?
Hanging in there.
Thank you for joining on Wicked Women. I had to play our music because it's excitement that
I saw that. I heard it. So
it's a catchy tune.
Well, I'll tell people a little tip here that Scotty actually chose the music for Robertson.
I did.
And he also chose the music for Wicked Women. So actually, we're kind of in his hands.
I was in my producer role back then. So
he was. But we're looking at breadcrumbing, Scotty, and I'm sure as we come off that subject, I'm just going to ask you a couple of things on it. If you obviously breadcrumbed in your life.
I have been before, and and you don't always know if you can define it as breadcrumbing or something else. I think breadcrumbing is when somebody, as you've all attested to already, when somebody's trying to keep you on a string. But I think that there is breadcrumbing that is also, what would you call it? It's breadcrumbing that isn't meant to be cruel, but it's breadcrumbing by default.
Yep.
Because it's like, it's not like somebody is being nasty and mean, and I'm just going to dangle what you can't have anymore out in front of you by throwing you little bits and pieces. There is something sometimes, I think, and you and I, Wendy, talked about this earlier, that you guys, sorry, I got noises going on back here.
I was going to say that
happens
at a certain age.
Yes, it's my phone keeps going on, shutting it off. I think that it's not done to be cruel sometimes, but it is the other person's psychology, if you will, for lack of a better word. It is their subconscious perhaps wrestling with where they are or what they've done or what they've lost or what they think they've lost or what they're trying to balance. So the breadcrumbing can be deliberate, the breadcrumbing can be subconscious.
Even if it's unintentionally, it's still cruel to the person who's being
It
breadcrumbed.
is.
And I have
That's
called that.
where they don't see things with clarity.
No,
And so they do that kind of thing.
there's that deep Scotty Roberts voice that I tried to emulate for a long time, but I can't do it.
The honey voice, right?
Oh, I'm talking too slow. I got to talk fast.
No, your voice is wonderful. We
like,
wanted to do this subject because I said I heard this statement. I've been Hanseled and Greteled, and I was like, what does that mean? But then Michael and I were doing a bit of research for the show. We were looking at Grimm's fairy tales, and everyone's seen the program Grimm. Everyone's had the storybooks read to them when they were young,
Yes.
and I'm just bring up some of the ones that people would know. The Frog Prince, people probably know that. They probably know things like Little Red Riding Hood, which is probably very, very famous. And also Tom Thumb. My God, that's one from my childhood. Tom Thumb.
Little bitty, Thumb,
And Sleeping Beauty. I did not realize that Sleeping Beauty was a Grimm fairy tale.
Yeah.
I did not.
Yes.
Now I saw.
Sorry, I had a client there that was asking me a question, and I had to answer them.
And also, I was just looking down at
Snow White. What was it about? But the glass where the stepmother had worked her to death or something or another, and I'm like, son of a bitch, this dude is dark. I'm thinking, Stephen King ain't got nothing on this dude.
Well, one of the stories that I told Michael the other day, and it would have been perfect for our Halloween show, one of the Grimm tales was about. I brought it up, and I'd never heard of it before, and it's about the robber bride. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the robber bride, but it's actually kind of it's not the nicest. But these are stories from the Brothers Grimm, and they went round to different towns and cities to get these stories. So just using this as an example, the robber bridegroom, this story has the makings of all horror, dark woods, a gang of murderers, severed body parts, and even cannibalism. And the robber bridegroom is one of the darkest tales that they ever actually wrote. And it's a tale of a daughter of a miller who was betrothed to someone by her father. She's got a really bad feeling and tries to avoid him, and even thinking about him makes her shudder. When she's finally forced to visit him at home in his creepy house in the darkest depths of the woods, she learns the truth about her future husband and his riotous crew. When she arrives at the house in the forest, she comes across a bird in a cage that says, "You got to go back, you young bride, because you're in a murderer's house." She looks around the house until she finds an old woman in the cellar. And this old woman says to her, "If you stay, this is going to be your fate." And she urges her to hide. "When they have thee in their power, they will kill thee without mercy and cook and eat thee, for they are eaters of human flesh." When the bridegroom and his gang of friends return home drunk, they drag in another woman. The girl witnesses several men force the maiden to drink several glasses of wine, and then they take it in turns to kill her. They strip her of her clothes, lay her on the table, and chop her body into pieces and prepare her for dinner. One of the men chops a finger off to retrieve a gold ring, and the finger flies off the table from the savage chop and into the miller daughter's lap. The old woman puts a sleeping potion into the men's drink, and while all the men are asleep, the young girl and the old woman escape. On the wedding day, she uses the finger as evidence to reveal her evil suitor's action, and the bridegroom and his group of murderers are then all executed for their crimes. Now, when I read that, I was like, oh my God, this is horrific. This is one of their tales. And then what I didn't realize that Hansel and Gretel actually was just as dark, wasn't it, Michael? It's just
Yeah.
as
Like I said, I seen like 3 different Hansel and Gretels. I was gonna say, the one was like they wasn't brother and sister. They lived across the river from each other, and they ended up fighting the demon in the well. And Gretel had to save him by stabbing the demon after he had possessed Hansel. Where they just kept following like the imp's footprints back to this well, and the well when the opening was the mouth, and I'm like, wow, that is not what I found on Disney Channel. And that's like a Little Red Riding Hood, another cautionary tale. If you're a young woman, don't go into the woods or the forest at night, because the big bad wolf is going to get you. Which and then they talk about SA or whatever, and you're being kidnapped, because back then, a young attractive woman, a young girl going into the woods, they was stuff afoot, and men could basically steal women and have their way with them, and nobody never see them again. There was no CSI to track them down. So
well, because in the old days we didn't have. I mean, how things went across with storytelling, right? People would.
Yeah, it's like don't. It's like don't. Yeah, it's like
read.
Yeah. And it's like, and even what is it, Sam and the Shamones? They did a song, Little Red Riding Hood. Be the best little girl you could, or something other. And the guy even howls like the wolf. The big bad wolf. Is going to get you. And he goes, "Woo!" And I'm like, and that's probably the sounds that somebody that was up to no good back in the day would try to like taunt. Somebody that they perceived as weak or unable to defend their person.
Mm.
And and the fairy tale went along to tell all these: don't go into the dark woods at night, or something bad's going to come and get you. And like I said, I was reading a lot of these stories, and I'm like, and I was thinking of what was it, Van Helsing?
Van Helsing, yeah.
And and because they'd had the whole thing, and the guy that plays Wolverine, what's his name?
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, him. And he did a good, and he was supposed to be part of the clergy that hunted all of these evil characters from these fairy tales. And I'm like, and that kind of is what put me on the road of looking at these fairy tales in a different, other than Disney light.
Well, yeah, because when I was young, my mother would buy these books, and they all were fairy tales, and I had the whole collection. And it was my favorite time at night. My mom would read me one of these stories, and what I was reading about the brothers Grimm, Wilhelm and Jacob Grimm. They were German, and they were German academics who collected and published folklore. And obviously they got stories, as I said, Cinderella, the Frog Prince, which everybody knows, Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel, which was one of my favorites.
Rapunzel, let down your hair.
Rumpelstiltskin and Sleeping Beauty, and of course Snow White. And apparently they their father's death in 1796, when Jacob was 11 and Willem was 10, caused great poverty and greatly affected them throughout their lives. And they developed a curiosity about German folklore, which grew into a lifelong dedication to collect folk tales. And if we look at some of the witch tales going back into certain times, we talk about that they weren't folk, they weren't fairy tales, they were true stories, and they're horrific and they're dark. And yet here are these brothers going around to different towns, picking up Michael's stories and making them into a point that whoever's reading them, like Charles Dickens did with A Christmas Carol, there's a point there to try and tell you about something.
A lesson to learn. And that's what I tell people. A lot of our history was either verbal, because a lot of it wasn't written. A lot of people back in, we take literature for granted anymore. And we got, like I said, Scotty writes a lot of books. I wish I could write like him. But you know what I'm saying? I would have to tell my tales audibly and not putting pen to paper or quill to what was the parchment. Because I can't do that. And a lot of these was verbally passed from generation to generation, and it kind of changed as people kind of adapted them over the years,
Sure.
and a lot of your Germanic tales was like that. A lot of your Irish folk tales was like that, and even a lot of your Native Americans here, in North America, was audibly passed down from one generation to the other.
They had to. That was the only way to do it, wasn't it? Was
Yeah. After they burnt the Library of Alexander to the ground, uh, don't help to put it on paper.
I often wonder if that's another one. But the thing is, I didn't realize when I was researching the Brothers Grimm, they wrote, and I'm trying to bring it up here. Where is it?
There's a lot of them.
They wrote altogether, or they actually put together 210 stories, right? Now, I didn't have all of those books, but what I didn't realize was that
if you'd have read 210 of their fairy tales, you'd have had nightmares growing up.
In the mid 20th century, Nazi Germany used the tales for propaganda. Later in the 20th century, psychologists such as Bruno Bettelheim reaffirmed the work's value despite the sexuality, cruelty, and violence in some of the tales' original versions. So we're talking about, back in the 1796, 1812, etc., etc. They're writing these stories there, and there's no fairy tale there. These are really nasty stories.
They're meant to grab your attention and leave a lasting, image in your head, and they seem like they did a really good job at it. Like I said, that's not the version I got growing up, or you got growing up.
No,
but you know what? I would rather read these fairy tales now that I'm older and darker and more jaded with the world. I think it'd be a whole lot more entertaining to me, because Halloween is my favorite time of the year. And it's like people think, oh no, everybody's a Disney princess. Everybody was not a princess in the original story. Everybody was not a prince or had good intentions.
Right.
They was.
Well, there was. I mean, they didn't come from a rich background.
No,
but I mean,
even the one Hansel and Gretel, even the witch, she had all of these coins and all that. But the reason she is eating the children is because no matter how much gold you had, if there's no food to buy, there's no food to buy. You can't eat gold coin. You starve to death, no matter how much money you had in your pocket. And
I didn't realize that Rapunzel had to be changed, because the original Rapunzel, the first edition, shows a sexual relationship between the prince and the girl in the tower. If anybody knows that story, but that was edited out and made more fairy tale. And also people being burnt at the stake, they were removed out as well. The word in German, every fairy, fee, prince, prinz, and princess is prinzessin. All words of French origin were transformed into a word where more people would be able to understand. These books have been passed down through generations and generations. We've all read our children, if you have them, fairy tales. We've all been read fairy tales. We've all read fairy tales. We didn't realize that most of these things were about children being eaten, or locked up, or beaten, or burnt, or tied up in a tower. I mean, they're really not, they're not the fairy tales that we thought they were. They should come with, and I loved them. I loved them as a kid. I'm in a tower. You got to throw your hair down. You got to climb up and get to me.
But no man's going to put that kind of work in for nothing after he gets up to the tower. You know what I'm saying? If I got to climb a cliff, it better be.
I hate to say this. I have to leave. I was going to contribute, and I'm sorry I did this on your show. I've got a little work crisis for a client. I got to go take care of it. And I'll talk to you later.
All right.
All right. See you, everybody.
Bye. You're right about the Snow White, though, because I didn't realize in the original Snow White, the Queen is little Snow White's mother, not her stepmother, but orders the huntsman to kill Snow White, her biological daughter, and bring home the child's lungs and liver so that she can eat them. And the story ends with the Queen dancing at Snow White's wedding wearing a pair of red hot iron shoes that kill her. I mean, that is amazing.
And so I'm saying, and they try to like soften it by like, oh, it's not her biological mother. It was a stepmother. It was this evil bitch that came into the family. And even the Smurfs, I was looking at that, cartoons we grew up with. But the Smurfs come from that same time. And the little blue Smurfs that run around is the souls of the dead kids who froze to death in the snowbanks. But yet they cleaned it up and made it a Saturday morning cartoon here in the US. And I'm thinking,
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm like, holy fuck. But like I said, it's very dark, it's very twisted, and I'm like, okay. Talking about soft language, that they really took the teeth out of the fairy tales.
Do you remember I remember this book. It wasn't one of my favorites, but The Goose Girl was apparently one of those. The original story had a servant stripped naked and pushed into a barrel studded with sharp nails, pointed inwardly, and then rolled her down the street. The Grimm's version of The Frog Prince describes the princess throwing a frog against a wall instead of kissing him, and inflicted so much cruelty and violence on him. Wow.
Yeah.
And I have never, and apparently medieval culture from which the tales originated, such as the scenes of witches burning as described in The Six Swans. I mean, this is real dark stuff, which
you want to talk about, we was talking about doing the BDSM, show. Yeah, whips and chains and everything, the pain. You imagine, a kid back then reading, because that could very easily happen to a kid in the late 1700s or 1800s. Oh, if you don't act right, let me take all of these nails and put them in a barrel and roll you down the street. That would be, that goes back into like, I remember growing up watching it. It was like Dudley Do Right. Oh, we're going to take the dance ball and we're going to tie her to the train tracks and let the train run her over. And it's still that dark side. They went to the darkest depths of people's minds and like pulled out these stories. And it's like, but I know a lot of little girls. If a frog come and said, "Kiss me, I'm a prince," they're probably going to throw him against the wall. It's going to be like.
Well, I think everyone grew up with a fairy tale, but I mean, feminism has taken this into their hands, and they believe a lot of feminists absolutely can't stand the Brothers Grimm. No. Because they listen, they believe that they listen to tales told by mothers to their daughters, and then decided to make them their own thing. But the Brothers Grimm, they only understood the tales of courage and manliness. And chivalry on the part of the guys. The girls are relegated to virtues or sheer physical beauty, such as Sleeping Beauty and Beauty and the Beast. Always we must read that our heroine is a beauty. So even feminism is looking at the Grimms and going, well, this is not right. I mean, I think that you've got to look at these books at the time that they were read, in the country they were read in, and written in, and look at it as the time that they were. And I think if you start changing stories to make it fit today,
it screws them up.
You are losing a lot of culture and medieval history, but also you can't really, I mean, you can do like eating Hansel and Gretel. You can do that with the breadcrumbing. But you have got to be a little bit more careful.
But I hate it when people judge people from a different time with our current values and mindset that we have going out. And it's like, well, they should have knew it was coming. A lot of these people couldn't read or write.
Yeah.
And they did not have the internet. They did not have all the information at their fingertips like a smartphone. The information they got was from a book or from a tale that was passed down. And it's very easy to judge somebody that you're not there. But most people who are judging the Brothers Grimm has probably never been hungry. They probably never had like a shitty day where they didn't know if their family was going to eat or not.
Especially in the time period that they were in.
They was probably cold, wet, and hungry.
Because you're right. I mean, back in medieval Germany, things were very, very different when they wrote them. But also, these are written from a German point of view, and the German nationality, very different. They can be very brutal with how they come across. Very, very blunt. And also that would influence the language of how these books were written.
It's in the same way, like with what was it, Catherine the Great that went into to Russia. That woman was in shock. Oh, I don't like that person. We'll just dispatch them. Take that for what you will. Cause like I said, I'm trying not to get Wendy in trouble, but you know what I'm saying. But she was shocked on how brutal one of the winners was, to how the people dealt with adversaries and foes. They just made them disappear. And she's like,
I've got friends who are German, and they're
yeah,
very different culture to us.
very blunt and to the point.
They are. German
and
culture is deeply rooted in the forest. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of German back in then, it was like farmers, countrymen,
Yeah,
millers, weavers, etc. And so a lot of these stories that were taken in dark forests with large
yes,
trees, and be careful how you find your way home. You got to go and take food to your grandmother because she's,
she's hungry and sickly. Yeah,
exactly. And a lot of the female villains, have you noticed, have been stepmothers
oh
in
yeah,
these fairy tales. Why
but
is it they use the stepmothers? I mean,
I don't know. I think they're just an easy person to make a villainize.
mm,
And but I've seen, I've heard here recent, some about some evil stepmothers that has came out, and I'm like, well, that's low bearing fruit, but it's easy, and most kids or what do you call it, resent the second wife. I know mine did. Like, oh, I cannot
well,
believe you did that. You know what I'm saying? So they're behind the eight ball before they even start. But I was
but
going to say,
when I talked about Nazi Germany, sorry, Michael, but in Nazi Germany, I said the stories were used to foster and promote anti-Semitic sentiments. Now that's really quite sad, because obviously these they would change some of the titles to "The Girl Who Was Killed by the Jews," or
yeah,
"The Jew Stone," or "The Jew Among Thorns." I mean, this
yeah,
is kind of scary. I did not know this until I did research about I'm not sure how the Brothers Grimm would have felt about that, but and in all these stories is obviously
but
one-sided and
but
about blood.
everything back then was fair game
It's
for
quite
for
horrific.
and we cannot help who was in power and who did that. Then people was all tried and dealt with accordingly.
Yeah.
But I still know, everybody know, my neighbor Miss Mark, her mom Oma is,
But
she is still very, she came here in '63, but
yeah.
she is still very direct and to the point because she is from Germany. And a lot of people's like, oh, she's crass or she's blunt, but that is the culture that she grew up in. And I know that because, but people who don't know her would take it as her being very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not inviting to, like, they're not as friendly, or it's like, oh, hi, how are you? Da, da, da,
They
da.
are friendly, but they're very different friendly to
Yeah,
us.
it's it.
And,
It's
and what when Claudia, very good friend of mine, German,
yeah,
sometimes we say to her, "You're being very German," because she's
yeah,
very, very, very blunt. But they just have a different way of saying it, and they come from a different culture. But what I'm trying to say is, this books that were written from medieval times going into late 17th,
yeah,
century, hard times. People had a hard life. Women were treated badly.
yeah,
Women were seen as second-class citizens in so many ways.
yeah,
And these guys idolized their father. They were traumatized by him dying young. They set out, they had no money. Their food was, they set out to make a difference. They collected all these stories. They got 200, I think it was 210.
yes,
Their stories are still going today. And
yeah,
when you next see the books on the shop or the shelf, or you're reading them, remember this show and what we said about it, because literally Disney, as you say quite rightly, in 1937 came out with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Scared the shit out of me when my parents took me to see it.
don't eat the apple.
And it shows the triumph of good over evil, innocence over oppression. And I think the Grimm tales have really provided an early foundation on which Disney has built their empire. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
And people don't talk always politely about Disney these days, and that's a whole new show. But if you think about it, in the film Cinderella, poor girl finding love and success, you then find movies like Pretty Woman, and Made in Manhattan using that. Poor girl meets someone rich or a prince, becomes happy and successful. It's still going on. They're still telling those stories.
It's always about, and I get it. Everybody wants romance. Everybody wants the fairy tale ending, and and the most of us, if we're lucky, we get it once or twice in our life. But and that's what I say. At the end of the day, they're stories, and they're a tale, and people who try to feed too much into a story that was written 300 years ago or better and judge. What I'm saying? I'm thinking, take it for what it is. If you can get a lesson out of it, get a lesson out of it. If you don't like it, don't read it. But everybody seems to be, well, I can't believe he said that. That woman, she cannot be a damsel in distress. But in his time, there was probably more damsels in distress than there was queens and princesses and all
different
this.
Times, different people.
And what is it?
I mean, Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty has the devil horns, doesn't she? She's gorgeous, and Angelina Jolie plays her so well. But I never realised that Christians would paint Jews as devils or demons in Middle Ages. So when they're writing that book, they're influenced by the time they're in. They're influenced by what they're being told. And the church, yet again, in that time, dictated what a lot of us could do, what we felt, what we saw, what we said. And so people wrote these stories. And so they would go and get these folk stories, and then they would perhaps maybe leave them, some of them true, but they would then put bits and pieces in to what would make a very good story. And with that, what, as you said, a lesson learned from them.
And a lot of times, the thing I learned in the Army, winners write the history. And in the same way when we watch TV now, everything has kind of, it is skewed to either one side or the other. And that's what I like about Wicked Win. We're straight down the middle. We're non-political or whatever. It's like, we're here to have a bit of Wicked. And
we try just to say, give you stuff to listen to, and then decide what you want to do.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so even back then, they had an agenda that they was either pushing one way or the other. This person's bad, so therefore you cannot be friends with them. And I always said, never be led astray by the words of the few. But it seems like the words of the few affects the lives of the many. And at the end of the day, back then, instead of having the news, they had stories. They had stories. They had, and if you owned the only printing press in 40 counties around, that's before, come to America. And England is a small nation, even if you put Wales and Scotland and all that in, and they probably weren't that many printing presses. So if you had a printing press and you could print out the little stories, the one with the printing press controlled the narrative. They controlled what stories was being put out. In the same way in the church, they had the scribes, and they're like, oh, you can put this, this, and this. And it was whatever their boss wanted them to, transfer to the scrolls. And that was the information that got put out. So people who judge these stories now harshly don't understand how history really worked. And like I said, I like
when you're telling stories, and I always find that I used to have a big fairy tale book. And
what did they say? Embellishing in a well-embellished story sells better copies.
But let's look at, I want to just look at, before we start to close this down, let's look at 11 movies that Disney has done based on the Grimm, and also Hans Christian Andersen, who everybody knows was another story. Beauty and the Beast is one. Is a Disney classic. But did you know that the tale has its roots in French literature? Well, I didn't know that at all.
But you think about it, back then, there was a lot of young, pretty women that was married off to an older man with money and means for the family. And so that would be Beauty and the Beast. If you got a young, and when I say young, I'm not going to put an age, but they was young. And this man might be in his 40s or his 50s. So that would, and that's what I took from Beauty and the Beast. Disney just turned him into a lion that turned into a prince. But,
Well,
but
told him a lot of money as well. Like
yeah,
Frozen is the Snow Queen. Didn't know that.
yeah,
Cinderella. That's another movie that has been
yeah.
made quite a lot of money for them. Mulan, another one. Hercules
Hercules.
and The Little Mermaid. Apparently, that is a Hans Christian Andersen one.
Yeah.
Snow White, obviously, that's grim one. Rapunzel was named Rapunzel. Obviously, that's Disney. I don't know. I can't remember seeing a film. Apparently, Tangled or something was the Disney.
Tangled. Tangled was it. Yeah.
So I don't know. And then The Frog Prince, which obviously was one of my favorite ones.
Yeah. You need Disney Plus there. I'll give you my login.
Pinocchio was number 11 as well.
Pinocchio.
What I'm interested in is when you next watching a Disney film and you see it comes up with a fairy tale of some kind or a story, Google it, what the original story was, because
it's how far off base it went.
and it's made a lot of money. I mean, Shrek obviously wasn't one of them.
No.
They've made a lot of money on Shrek and Donkey, but it was just interesting. We wanted to have a look at this after doing Hansel and Gretelling, because where did that terminology come from? Obviously, we know it means breadcrumbing from the story, and it made us look at the Grimms. And like we did with Charles Dickens, which I'm actually learned a lot more about Charles Dickens through his wife out without any money and everything. And,
his personality went to shit after he comes to the States.
Exactly. And then also now the Grimms. I mean, these were flawed human beings who wrote fantastic stories that are stood
at the end of the day, they're all human, and humans.
And I don't think you should change the past. You should understand it and accept it, but also learn from it. And the fact is, if we learn from the past, we can make a better future. But I really hope you guys have enjoyed tonight listening to our stories. We have some great shows coming up. Michael and I will hopefully be here next week. Val may join us. It depends on how she is, but we welcome everyone. If you want to come and join Wicked Women, come and join us. Come and come onto the come into StreamYard and join us and do the show with us. Or what we tend to do is bring you in halfway, or at least later on in the show, so at least we can get most of the show out. But we're always interested, aren't we, Michael, in what people
Absolutely.
want.
I love to exchange ideas, and the more I do it, the better I am of it. And what you're saying about the history, there's a saying that I heard a long time ago: "Ye who forget history are doomed to repeat it."
Absolutely.
And in this day and time, in this political climate, and everything in the world is going to shit, we need to, what is you always said, the Jerry Springer quote, be good to yourself and to everybody. And that's what, I enjoy doing Wicked Women, because, sometimes you just got to be that little beacon of hope that is out there, like the lighthouse. For some reason, I started watching something about lighthouses, and now I see lighthouses that's all over England and Cornwall and all over the East Coast here. And I'm like,
we're all a product of our past, and we're all a product of our history. And the thing is, I've always believed, don't tear down these statues and stuff like that. Learn from them. If you keep them up, you learn from them. If you take them down and they don't exist, it's like everything new that's going on today. Learn from them. If you shut them out, if you don't talk about them,
that's
you
it.
learn from them.
That's what I was saying. The reason they're there, you treat this stuff like a lighthouse. That way, there's dangers in the water around you. And everybody said, well, with all this modern technology, why do you still have it there for?
Beautiful.
And and I tell him, and he's like, well, what if all your other navigational aids fall? This thing is still right here the beacon of hope, the light going out, and each one, and I'm like,
I always think the people that are in a lighthouse so many days of the year, and they're right out in the sea, and the waves are hitting those houses. I don't know how they do it. It would freak me out.
there's one that I saw, and like I said, and the reason I was saying about, the reason I'm so big on promoting, because I do think that we are the lighthouse of positivity on a Sunday, and and you know, and I enjoy it. That's why it helps. And like I said, I get manic. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. Sometimes I'm very focused, and other days I'm like fucking off with the squirrels. But no, I saw. But there was one, and it's called Wolf Rock, and it's in the UK. And they showed this video 7 years ago. These poor bastards had these ropes to the top of the lighthouse.
Sounds about right.
And they and he's like sometimes you made it to shore, and sometimes you got a dip in the cold Atlantic. But we had a job to do to keep the people at sea safe. And and if we can be the lighthouse of hope and give out that little beacon and let her know, our friends and loved ones that are sick, part of the Wicked family, that somebody gives a shit. Sometimes that's all it takes. That's like I said with the card earlier. Who would think Moonpig? And if you don't know who Moonpig is, Google it. Great little app.
Just was looking at our shows, because I'm going back very quickly here. Our first podcast, which Val was unwell, and Carly did it with me. I'm trying to find the first one. What the date was? I should know, but I'm trying to find it. Let me just quickly find it. Where is it? Because it's been going a while now, but I think I want to do, like, we've been Wicked Women. We have been so lucky to have some amazing women that have come and joined us. We've had Caitlin and Carly and Sabrina and Rose from Macedonia. We had
that woman is doing great work.
We've had I'm trying to think, there was a few other ladies that came. We had Michelle, we had Tracy, we had there was another one. We had Cassie. We've had some lovely ladies come on and join us. In our time. And Wicked Women is changing and emerging and growing, and it will change as it goes on. The way we do things, some things will stay the same, other things will change as well. And some of it is the subjects that we're going to be talking about. We are going to be looking at different subjects, not just relationships and sex either, because I know they're popular, but we want to do other things too.
It's all a bit of sexy, cheeky fun. And and all of that is fun. I'm surprised the one about good vibrations did not break the internet. But last week,
we tried.
We had the best views that we had. But
fantastic.
But we're still stuck at 128 subscribers.
How many we got now? We have at the moment 128. So we need to share, and subscribe and share with women. We need to.
And and it's 340 some views or something. I will tell you it.
But I'm gonna actually say, is it a bit of a surprise here?
347.
Wicked Women is going to do a day show. We're going to do it, all being well, coming up in the next couple of weeks. I've been threatening to do it for so long.
I'll be here in my house coat and underwear.
It may not be. I'm sort of toying with the idea of, am I going to Canada or not in the next couple of weeks? I don't know. If I don't go in the next couple of weeks, we will definitely be doing a day show, and it will be around 2:00 in the afternoon. It will be on our channel, because we thought we might talk about some other things and get other people to just join us. Let's just have a show. Come in and join us. Just talk about whatever you want to talk about. Ask us some questions. Ask us, the wicked people, ask us things that you may want to know about us.
Because like I said, I'll break the fourth wall all the time, because what I'm saying, I'm just me, and that's why I said, being very personable. And and if you got something going on in your life that you think, what do you think about, we'll put it out to the chat and see, hey chat, what do you think this person,
and if there's a subject you want us to look at,
and the Facebook page.
nothing too political, because we try and give you a positive on a Sunday. There may be times that some of the things we talk about are sad or difficult or bring up triggers and everything, but mainly we're here to bring a bit of wicked into your Sunday morning, afternoon, or evening, or whenever you watch it, really, because we know a lot of people watch it on catch up. But I'd love to do a show. I'm just looking at my diary right now. I'm not sure if we can fit it in, but if I can, you'll see. Look out for the announcement. You'll see it will be an announcement. But Michael, you've been an excellent co-host.
I try. Like I said, I try to keep my shit together on a Sunday. The rest of the week, it's hit or miss.
But I know Val's very grateful for you.
And like I said, I hope she feels better. And like I said, it seems like I thought everybody was getting better. And Val is sick. Like I said,
when you have a condition like Val and I have, you have good and bad, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I'm just going to bring up this comment that Carlene's just put in.
Yeah.
We had a real life kind of Hansel and Gretel tale when I grew up. A dad took his 2 kids out to the woods. The dad came back. The kids never did. Wow.
Yep. Yeah. But the one I read, the mother said, "Look, we're starving to death. We cannot feed 2 other mouths. Take them to the woods, get rid of them." The first day, the little boy dropped white rocks. The second time, they found her way back. The mother was a bitch. She's like, "Take them out. I told you to get rid of these kids. We cannot feed ourselves plus these kids." And they was expendable. So they dropped the bread. The birds eat the bread. So they, and they found this old woman's house, and she fed them full of gumdrops and gingerbread and all this. And she put the little boy in the cage, and she kept poking him with a stick to see if he's going to be fat enough to roast. And the sister took up for the little boy. And when the witch opened the door, or the old woman, she shoved her in. And it, what they leave out on Disney is, after they shoved her in and killed her in the oven, they ransacked the house for all of the diamonds and all the jewels and the coin. And they wandered around lost. And when they made it back, the dad was still alive that didn't really want to take the kids into the woods and get rid of them, but he was made to by his wife. The mother had died. The dad takes the kids back and remarries. And that was and I was like, that
interesting
is
you bring up the gingerbread house, because what do we all do at Christmas time? We
gingerbread and gumdrops and all that. And
make gingerbread. And I'm just looking at where the origins from that. Yet again, Germany. Gingerbread houses originated in Germany in the 16th century, gaining immense popularity after the Grimm's fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel, which was published in 1812. Described a sweet-covered cottage, inspiring German bakers to celebrate and create elaborate edible houses, a tradition spreading through Germany, immigrants, and becoming a cherished Christmas custom. Now, I know in America, all you guys, you make your own gingerbread houses and you get all the family together and you put it together. Not so big here, but I think some people do. But gingerbread itself has roots in medieval Europe, with monks in Franconia, Germany, shaping it into figures. Apparently Nuremberg roll. By the 17th century, Nuremberg became known as the gingerbread capital, with guilds crafting artistic gingerbread treats. And German immigrants brought gingerbread traditions to Sweden in the 13th century and later to America, which is establishing the festive house. Never knew that. So just from Hansel and Gretel alone.
You got gingerbread houses, gingerbread men, and all that. What was it? There was another, I guess that was Shrek, where they had the gingerbread man and they had the little bitty king or whatever. But I didn't notice it. But I had hung my German outdoorsman hat over there the other day when I was playing with somebody, and I didn't even know that. It's just a wild coincidence. Because there's a restaurant here, and if you're in the Tri-Cities, I'd recommend it. It's called Freiburg's. Some of the best authentic German food on the planet. And like I said, I'd recommend the sauerkraut and schnitzel.
Well, as I said, I've never done. Even when I was in Canada, I saw people doing this, but I never did. I never did the gingerbread. And now I see at Christmas time people buying it and let's all get together. And you see the movies, like people coming around decorating it. But isn't it interesting that Hansel and Gretel, what we started the Tonight Show about, we're talking about the gingerbread house, and now it all comes back to Germany. This is all German origins, and here we are talking about it in the UK, and we're talking about it in
America.
And actually, the right spelling for Gretel is Gretel. Just so we're aware, because English tend to bastardize any kind of language, but actually, it is Gretel is Gretel. That's how it's spelled. So there you go. We've learned some things tonight, guys. I hope you've really enjoyed it. We've learned about breadcrumbing, relationships, whether that be work, family, what's the other one? Work, family, friends, and all kinds of people that are in your life, and also some about where these stories are coming from, why we're using this terminology, and also even gingerbread houses now.
It's it, and I see that Steve said this show doesn't judge; it's only grace.
Thank you, Steve.
And you know, Steve's here early, and likes, you know.
Steve, why don't you come and join us one day? I'd like to see you. We don't know what you look like.
I know he's always here. He's waiting, and like I said, that means a lot.
It does
to the Wicked family, because you know we're a small show that grows, and like I said, and we said it before. People's like, oh, they'll do 2 shows. They'll do 3 shows. They won't last. You know what? The only one standing.
Well,
so you know what I'm saying? It's like you know, through sickness and health and all this other stuff.
Well, we're on number 53 now. Scotty, obviously, and I are coming back with Robert.
Yes, I am 53. Don't look a day over 80, but you know, I'm hanging in. And Carlene, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I tell them, if somebody gets out of hand in the comments, I think Carlene is she's not the one to play with. She's mean. And
well, I'm glad to say that the other show that is coming back, Robertson is coming back, which I'm really, really happy about. I mean, the fact that Scotty almost died so many times and we never even thought he'd even be here is still, it's amazing that he's coming back and we get to do that show. And we will have, you know, it's very different, similar, but very different vibration to Wicked Women. Also, he's obviously got his captain's cabin, the log, on Monday to Friday. So I know you guys, I watch it in the mornings when I get up, but I know you have that.
Live, my expression, but perhaps a pre-show sometimes. He said he might come on a pre-show before we go live.
Pre-show, well, you do that. And also, I know Ken doesn't do his show much anymore. So it really is just at the moment, from the little team, it is Wicked Women, and hopefully Captain's cabin log, and then Robertson probably will return, I would say, in February. That's probably where we'll start.
You know, like I said, I am still looking for a co-host for Unapologetically Male. If people tells me I'm probably going to get hate mail, you know, I've got hate mail before. I'm a big boy. I'm old enough and ugly enough and mean enough that it don't bother me. You know, I got big shoulders, but yeah, I am still looking, because I need somebody else to kind of even me out.
Well, it depends. I mean, like when you do a show, it's good that you've got, like, Scotty does it on his own, and Scotty comes up with stuff, but it's nice to sometimes bounce off each other. I always say with Wicked Women, come in, join us if you can. If you can't watch, join us in the comments. As I end the show tonight, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's commented and been a part. Scotty, for coming on, even though it was a short visit. It's always
Barb,
nice to
I can look through here and I can see the regular ones through here, and they do mean a lot to.
Yeah, because it's loyalty, and we hope that we provide you with a show. And we've got some great shows, as I said, just the ones coming up. I haven't put the dates out yet. We have Dwayne Klassen returning. We have AJ and the Animal Rescue in Bulgaria coming. We have got an afternoon show coming as well. So, and lots of other subjects. So it all depends on where I'm going to be in the next couple of weeks. But all being well, without fail, we will be back next Sunday.
I'll be here.
So will I. And so sending all my love. Have a great week, guys. Michael, you've been amazing. Amazing co-host. Thank you so much. And I'm going to bring up the titles here. Where are they? Always have to find, because I have the computer here and there's all bits and pieces. And I'm like, where's my music gone? There it is.
Yep.
We're going out. Listen, guys, have a great week. Tell us your stories next week. We'll look forward to it. And we'll see you all soon. Take care of each other.